Well, here we are at the end of the course, and we've covered a lot of ground so far, I think. Now it's time to take a look at the future and what it holds in store for us. I get a kick out of looking at the future because, well, when you gaze into a crystal ball, there are really no consequences if you get it wrong. And you probably will get it wrong. That said, I'm going to offer up some crystal ball gazing, not on my own, but with the help of some observers of our connected world who are better situated to make these guesses than I am. First of all, one of the things that we must consider is the big picture, and that is that population growth is slowing. There's a slower birth rate throughout the world, and people are living longer. These combine to slow down population growth, and that has an effect on the internet. Internet growth becomes flat. Global internet growth is flat. It had been growing at 9% year to year, and that hasn't changed. And if you eliminate India, internet growth is only 7%. In fact, India is probably the next big story regarding the internet. It's now the number 2 user in the world. China is number 1. The United States is number 3. So what does that mean as far as digital technology is concerned? Smartphone growth is slowing. In 2016, unit shipments of smartphones went up only 10% compared to previous years where it had been up as much as 28%. And this is true throughout the world. Well, what are we going to evolve to? The next big development in computing is expected to be voice control. Computing interface is evolving from keyboard to microphones and keyboards. We're seeing some of that already with the growth of voice assistants. For instance, Siri. That's growing quickly. 65% of smartphone users use a voice assistant. Google voice search is way up, and Baidu voice search is growing even faster, Baidu being the Chinese version of Google. It's hard to type Chinese characters into a small keyboard, and it's predicted that by 2020, more than 50% of searches will be images or speech. In May of 2016, 1 out of 5 searches on the mobile app in the United States are done by voice. The next logical step takes us into the realm of the Jetsons. Voice as computer interface. A lot of advantages there. It's hands-free and even vision-free. You don't have to look at a screen. You can use it at home or in the car or on the go. It's fast. Humans can speak at about 150 words per minute, but the average typist puts out only about 40 words per minute. It's easy. All you've got to do is speak, and based on previous searches, it's personalized and context-driven. Now, for us to realize the full benefits of this, it will require improvements in natural language processing. And the key here is accuracy. Once voice recognition is 99% accurate, everyone will use it. Hands-free and vision-free. It expands the concept of being always on. Amazon Alexa is an example of an always-on voice-controlled device. It's 3 times faster to order via voice than to navigate through menus in mobile apps. Chinese online retail is growing faster than the United States. Alibaba, for instance, versus Amazon.com is growing quicker because of the voice commands that are available to it. It's also affecting public and private companies and their use of technology. The impact of the internet is extraordinary and broad on private and public companies, and that impact is just beginning. For instance, people are cutting the cord, as you probably are aware and maybe have done yourself. That affects media companies. Online use affects retail services. That always-on connectivity can lead to hyper-targeted marketing via Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Google. And a lot of this is being driven by the millennial generation. Millennials, of course, are those folks who were born between 1981 and 1996. Millennials are now the largest generation in the world, making up 27% of the world's population. They're adapting to digital technologies quite quickly. I'm talking about they. I should talk about you, because most of you are members of the millennial generation too. For instance, we're entering a world where communication will be done by visuals, images, moving pictures. Generation Z, the kids between the ages of 1 and 20 years old, are headed this way. Increasingly, smartphone users use the camera plus storytelling plus creativity plus messaging to communicate. And all of this stuff is being shared. They're leaving text behind, as a matter of fact. Another big advance will be in the area of augmented reality. Last summer saw a burst of excitement over Pokemon Go, and that was an augmented reality game. Augmented reality overlays images and video on real-world scenes, as in the picture here. You've got a reading this week on Apple's efforts in the AR field. Apple CEO Tim Cook thinks augmented reality will be bigger than virtual reality. Of course, virtual reality uses a headset to generate an imaginary setting or to place the viewer in a created environment. Big companies like Google, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, and Sony and Samsung are heavily into VR development. It's not just a gimmick. It's expected to be used in healthcare and clinical therapies to treat things like PTSD and provide a drug-free method of pain management. It can also be used in engineering as a step beyond computer-assisted design. Marketers might use VR to reach a completely immersed audience. And then there's Bitcoin. It's been around for a few years now and took a hit a few years ago when one of its exchanges was hacked and went belly up. But since then, instead of disappearing, Bitcoin is getting more interest from many different corners. For instance, a lot of companies accept Bitcoin as payment, including Tesla cars, PayPal and eBay, Zappos, Whole Foods Market, Victoria's Secret, Home Depot, Sears, Gap, Subway, CVS, Amazon, and more. This peer-to-peer electronic cash system processes 100,000 transactions per day. It's expected to keep growing and become as widespread as hard currency. Bitcoin has gone mainstream. As regulations regarding digital currency tighten up, large financial institutions are expected to adopt it. So our online world will only keep expanding. Some say information will become like electricity, invisible but vital to the way we live our lives now. Big data will grow. We'll be controlling more and more things with big data, and data analytics is shaping up to be one of the glamour jobs of the next couple of decades. Of course, we'll continue to deal with assaults on our security and privacy as well. So that's a wrap. I've been gratified by the way you have interacted with each other during the class. Conversations in a virtual world aren't always easy. I want to remind you to do the course evaluation, the student's perception of instruction. It's important that we get that filled out so that we can improve our course offerings. Besides, there are a few additional points involved with that. Sometime during the first full week in May, I'll get you your course grades, and I'll be around this summer and next fall if you want to stop by and say hi.